Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first story is titled, Guess What Happens When You Write Up Your Best Employee After He Came in to Help on His Day Off. Not my story, but recently happened to a friend of mine. Personal details omitted, obviously. Most of his time there has been pretty all right, but recently it has become a remarkably worse place to work. Steve is the most senior employee outside of management, and by far the most productive. He's always training new hires, working extra hours, helping other departments, you name it. Pretty often, Steve will come in for a couple hours on his day off to take care of backed-up paperwork and general housekeeping of his department. This does wonders for keeping the department running smoothly, especially when they are busy. Management knows about this and approves. Going into the holidays this year, they are absolutely slammed, as usual. Orders are backing up, and it's all hands on deck, extra hours full tilt. After another 60-hour work week, Steve has a couple of days off. On his second day off, he decides to go into work for a few hours. He knows that his co-workers are likely too busy to be taking care of the side stuff, so he's being a team player and helping out. While he's finishing up and about to leave, Steve's manager comes up to him, and they have the following conversation. Hey, Steve, quit messing around. Get back out there and do your job. Steve replies, Hey, manager, sorry, it's my day off. I'm not scheduled to work this shift. I'm just helping out, leaving in like 5 minutes. Manager replies, The hell you are. Get your ass out there. Steve says, Nope, not happening. I'm going home. The next day, Steve is predictably brought into the office, dressed down, and written up for insubordination. But there's a few things about Steve that his employers knew but either forgot or didn't care about. Steve has been getting fed up with his employer for a while now. Steve is quite financially stable as he works in a high-demand industry, and his wife also has a fantastic, well-paying job. Steve is about to become a dad. In fact, he is very close to becoming a dad right after the holidays, most likely. So Steve is in the manager's office, just finished getting talked down to and handed his write-up to sign. Steve signs his write-up and hands it back, along with an envelope with a short letter inside. What's this, manager asks. My 2 weeks' notice. Cue the backpedaling. Manager is apologetic, asks for Steve to at least finish the holiday rush. Big boss comes in and offers a raise if he stays. The whole shebang. Steve turns it all down. Now Steve's former employer has to get through the holidays without their most reliable worker, which will take at least 2 or 3 new hires to cover. Meanwhile, Steve can enjoy the holidays without stress. He'll prepare for the arrival of their baby and start looking for work again when they're good and ready. The next story is titled, Want Some Free Gas? I gotcha, bro. So several years ago, my friend, we'll call him Boris, and I would always help each other do the spring cleanup for our properties. This included taking out damaged trees, preparing garden plots, and taking care of our weed-infested yards. I was going to be the first on the cleanup detail, so I prepared tools and implements the Friday before the big cleanup was to happen. Sharpening tools and chainsaw chains, lawnmower blade, and just getting everything in order. Among those tasks was mixing had with 2-cycle oil. Finished up kind of late and generally put things away for the next day. The next morning, Boris shows up with coffee and biscuits around 8 a.m. As we were sitting on his tailgate enjoying breakfast, my neighbors ride by in their beat-to-hell Chevy Cavalier, smoking like a freight train. We will call them Rocky and Bullwinkle. Boris and I made the usual jokes about the amount of smoke pouring from the exhaust. Damn, bet they go to the gas station to fill up with oil and check the gas. We soon finished breakfast and thought no more about it. As we begin to get our tools out and hash out a plan of attack, I cannot find my gas cans. No mixed gas, regular gas, or a gas can in general. That's when it dawned on me why the car Rocky and Bullwinkle were driving was smoking so bad. I'm pissed, to say the least. Well, all Boris and I could do was go shopping for gas cans, gas, and more 2-cycle oil. After we returned, we saw Rocky and Bullwinkle pass by several times, but all in all, we got a lot done. The next weekend we dedicated to clean up at Boris's. A weekend or two go by, and we have a family dinner at my wife's, Rocky and Bullwinkle's grandparents. Toward the latter part of the evening, we were having a few drinks. Most people had left, and myself and wife's grandfather were shooting the breeze, but I had to take a leak. As I was doing so, I saw a gas can with a very distinct paint on it. I inquired from the old man about how it came into his possession, and he stated Rocky and Bullwinkle left it there. I simply explained it was mine, as was another, and loaded them into my truck. It ate at me every time that piece of shit car with my post neighbors went by. So I hatched a plan from a rotten egg. I went and bought a few gallons of gas, a few gallons of diesel fuel, and some other various oils. I made a concoction of these different chemicals and filled my new 6-gallon gas can I had to purchase. With some clean gas, I filled the lawnmower and cut some grass that evening, making sure Rocky and Bullwinkle saw me. Then I put everything away, but forgot, and left that rotten egg gas can out. I got up and went to work the next morning, and didn't even think to check on the can. But when I got home, I checked, and it was gone. My wife informed me that my plan must have worked, as she watched Rocky and Bullwinkle go in and out with the car, not only smoking, but spitting and sputtering as well. The last time they rode out, they didn't ride back in. Gave me an hour apiece before they came over and wanted to know if I could look at the car and see what was wrong. If it could not be fixed on the side of the road, maybe tow it home. My response, I've had a long day and have a migraine, maybe tomorrow. I saw the panic set in when I told them that. That's when they told me they had no insurance and it was on a main road. Tough luck. So the highway patrol did run across it and had it towed. It was going to cost them around $500 to get it out of impound. Plus they had to have current registration and insurance. Car wasn't worth it. Well, they're those type of people that good luck just falls on them. And the pastor for a local church gave them an old Ford Taurus. Took me a few cans of rotten egg gas, but I got the motor to lock up after about a month. This time it quit in front of their grandparents' yard. So they scrapped it, and as luck would have it, they got their income tax returns. They bought a nice-looking Ford F-150, but it began having problems too. Smoked really bad. They did take it to a mechanic that eventually found the problem. He got the truck running right again for about $1,500, and I have never had any more gas come up missing. Thanks for reading. The next story is titled, Just Ducking Leave. Well, all right then. So my ex-wife used to pull the bullcrap move of getting out of the car and walking whenever there was an argument, knowing my stupid ass would follow her and try to convince her to get back in so we could go home. One night she started an argument accusing me of flirting with a waitress, who was the mother of one of my high school friends. Definitely was not on my radar of women to flirt with, and I let her know that in no uncertain terms. As usual, she jumped out of the car and starts walking, so here I go driving next to her, window down, trying to coax her back in the car. Now on this particular evening it was raining and cold, and I had really just about had enough of this stupid habit of hers. So I asked her twice to get in, and I told her I'd leave if she didn't. She said, "Just ducking leave, go home." So I did. Went home, cracked open a cold Pepsi, grabbed my new book, plopped my ass down in the recliner and started reading. 30 minutes later, she flings the door open, looking like a drowned rat and extremely pissed. She starts yelling, "Where did you go? Why didn't you come back for me?" I calmly said, "Well, you told me to leave and go home. I just figured you needed some time to cool off." Funny, you know, she never got out of the car again for some reason. The next story is titled, I Walked Out Over a Chair and My Family Tore Itself Apart. I wasn't going to come back here again. To be honest, I'd completely forgotten I made this account. I only got back in because I'd written down the password and left it on my desk. I was listening to Reddit videos on YouTube a couple of weeks ago when I suddenly heard my old Am I the Asshole post. So I thought I'd give an update. Well, things escalated a lot after I made that post because I linked it to my parents, and other family members after a little while. They were furious with me at first. Some even mocked me, saying things like, "Oh, watch what you say or do around OP. He might just post about it on Reddit." But when they actually read the comments on my post when I made them, they became mortified. My brother-in-law did agree to pay for a new chair and gave me the money I asked for. I bought a better folding chair than my last one and resumed going to family functions. But whenever I was there was this air about some of the family members. They looked at me like I'd sucked all the fun out of the room. My parents had stopped thinking the chair thing was funny and even scolded a kid for taking my seat when I got up to use the bathroom. The only problem is that this kid was my nephew. And he started crying when they made him get up. My brother-in-law came to the boy's rescue, and my nephew ended up blurting out that his daddy told him he could do it. When I was out of the bathroom, there was a big fight about it going on. Several family members, including my sister and brother-in-law, were all yelling that it was just a damn chair, and I shouldn't be so butthurt about it. My parents demanded to know why they were so butthurt about not being allowed to screw with me anymore. Like, what was their motivation after doing it for so long? It made no sense and wasn't funny anymore. And that's when I intervened. I told them none of this crap would have ever happened if they hadn't been so intent on messing with me when there really was no point to it. And I only started bringing my own chair because I could never find a stable place to sit. And if they still thought they were in the right about the situation, then they were just bullies, plain and simple. And what kind of example is that to be setting for their son? My brother-in-law raged, grabbed my new chair, and hurled it through the living room bay window. There was a bit of a pause before he realized what he'd just done. Then he took off in his car and left my sister and nephew there. My parents got my sister to call him, and over the phone they threatened to go to the police if he didn't pay for the damages. Brother-in-law yelled a few F-bombs until my sister took the phone back, and then she said he can either make things right or she'll divorce him. Well, that did the trick because he came back looking like a kicked puppy with his head hanging low. He apologized to me and my parents without even looking at us, and said he'd pay for the new bay window and left again. My sister said he drank himself to sleep that night. My new chair was just fine. It took being hurled through a bay window like a champ. There was hardly a scratch on it. And until then, the window had to be covered with plywood. It took some time, but they got the new bay window. And until then, the window had to be covered with plywood. It took some time, but they got the new bay window. And it's better than the old one, though I imagine it was extra expensive because it's a bay window. The family was still divided about the situation for a while, mainly brother-in-law's parents, my uncle, and a couple of cousins. They blamed me and called me obnoxious over insisting on bringing my own chair and refusing to let anyone else use it. So I compromised. I said that if I had a good designated seat that no one will try to take away, I'll leave my chair in my car. It took 2 more family barbecues before they finally agreed to this. Since then, I've left the chair in my car unless there really wasn't enough seating, and that's only happened once since then. The problem is, though, that even though they've stopped screwing with me, they were still screwing with each other until things went too far. They still like to take each other's seats, but I guess others were following my example because they put their foot down and demanded it stop. It's been going on for decades, and they've had enough. Brother-in-law stayed out of the fight entirely and hasn't caused any more trouble. But for several family functions, a number of people didn't bother to show up. My mother was broken up about it because she loves hosting parties. It took months, but everything more or less normalized again. But without the chair thing going on, some have resorted to other stupid pranks, like a little device you hook to a chair that makes farts. They didn't do this to my seat, but did it to a cousin. And said cousin got really petty at the next party and let out real farts. He said he ate a whole pack of fiber bars and had eggs for breakfast. And it was damn nasty. Other pranks included hiding eating utensils, a stink bomb, hiding some sort of monster thing in the toilet, cellophane in a doorway, ripping paper when someone bends over, messing with drinks, hiding shoes, copying outfits, a container of foam, packing peanuts above a doorway, and finally the one that really infuriated my aunt and uncle when a party was held at their house. A glitter bomb. They got their carpet professionally cleaned and billed the person who made the glitter bomb for it. So, now pranks are just over. They don't want any more. I'm fine with that, but the last few family functions have been a bit dull. I think they were so used to how things were that they're now trying to find other ways to amuse themselves that don't involve cell phones. The last story is titled, Choosing Beggar Relatives. I'm a tire fitter. I have this aunt who usually comes to me to switch her tires from the winter ones to the normal ones, and vice versa, for which I charge her nothing since she is my aunt. One day she calls me asking if I could come for the usual work, to which I said no since it was a very busy day. 1 hour later, guess who arrives at my workplace? Yeah, I tell her again that I was seriously too busy, and she answers, no problem, I'm not in a hurry, like that was the problem. After a while, I'm forced to send paying customers away because I can't keep up with all the work. And even so, she stays without giving a single duck. So when her turn comes, I do my job and then ask her to pay. Because working for free for a relative may be acceptable, but losing money is just too much. To which she has a shocked reaction, followed by literally throwing the money at me. The next day, I see a post of her on Facebook saying, "Don't you think 50 cents is too much for tire replacement?" For the first time, she had to pay in years. Needless to say, I refused to ever do anything for her from that day on. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.